Hey, what's up you guys? Today is September 1st, 2013, and you know what that means. The new Yu-Gi-Oh format is in effect. But if you're like me, you might not really know what you want to play, and you don't just want to play the same old thing like mermails or dragon plants. Maybe you want to play something a bit older or something that's been forgotten. So I've got 13 really awesome, really old Yu-Gi-Oh decks that you might still enjoy. So the first deck is Lightsworns. Lightsworns are an older deck, really old actually, but what people fail to notice is that over the course of the last few ban lists, the deck has gotten back a lot of the old power it used to have. The deck now has 3 copies of Lumina and 3 copies of Necrogardna. Plus, Light Rays are still monsters, there are 3 Judgment Dragons, so I don't really see why the deck couldn't do well. So it's definitely a deck you should try out, and it's really affordable too. The next deck is Gladiator Beasts. Every time the format changes, people like to say Glads are quote-unquote back, and then they sort of fade, but this time I think they might actually have a chance. Heavy Storm is gone, and a lot of the trap cards that might hamper your Gladiator Beast are also gone. Plus, the deck's got new tricks, like Tenki, Gyoko, Tensu, not to mention, even Wolfbark can work in Gladiator Beasts. And you've got cards like Rescue Rabbit and Tour Guide that can make really awesome combos too. Definitely a deck worth trying out. The next deck is Blackwings. Blackwings now have Black Whirlwind back at 3. This is a huge boon for the consistency of the deck because it makes your Icarus attacks always live, always gives you plays, and collutes at 3, and that's from last list. So maybe Blackwings aren't just a deck that you should ignore because they actually have really great matchups against everything. The next deck is Destiny Zombies. Now this is one you probably could have guessed. Destiny Zombies just combine Destiny Hero Malicious with the double Mizuki, double Plague Spreader, and cards like Zombie Master, Dark Arm, Destiny Draw, to basically just give you a really, really powerful synchro engine that just sort of goes on and on and on. You'll make more Stardust Dragons, Scrap Dragons, Thought Rulers, and Crimson Bladers than your opponent can deal with, and it's a lot of fun, really retro too. The next deck is TG Stun. This deck won Nationals one year, didn't it? And now that TG Striker's at 2, the engine's got a definite rebirth, we'll say. You can now search 2 copies of TG Striker, which is really helpful, and cards like Skill Drain might be really, really powerful this format as well. Horn of the Phantom Beast, everything's there, and slowing down the pace of the game is never a bad thing. So if you're interested in stun decks, TG Stun is definitely one of the things you should try out. The next deck is Flamvell Synchro. This is one that a lot of people forgot about when Rescue Cat was banned, but Flamvell Fire Dog is still really big, still works with cards like Onslaught of the Fire Kings, and level 8 synchros are sort of back in style now, so a deck that can make them for free, no complaints there. Really cheap too, pick it up. The next deck is Rock Stun. If you're interested in stun but you don't want to, be mainstream and play with TGs, there are also rocks, and in a slower format, the rock monsters can really build up. You have all of the Kokimeru monsters that negate effects, you've got Fossil Dyna and Neospatian Grand Mole, but in addition, you've also got cards like Morphing Jar number 2 that people like to forget, and Block Golem is also a new support card for rocks. I mean, the deck might not be top tier, but if you like stun cards, definitely something worth looking at. The next deck is Wind-Ups. Wind-Ups seem like they'd be bad since, Shockmaster got banned, but let's not forget that they've still got Tenki, Wind-Up Rat, Volcasaurus, there are even new rank 5s. Definitely a deck that I think is underrated, especially since Xeing is supposed to fall out of fashion. The next deck is Chaos Dragons. I think we've all sort of had enough of elemental dragons popping up, so how about just some regular old light and darks? This deck just fell out of popularity, and I'm not really sure why, because Red Eyes is still alive, Light Pulsar is still alive. Definitely a deck you should be paying attention to because it can drop big monsters really quickly. The next deck is Hieratics. There are less traps to stop these dragons, and that means that you can go off a lot more often. The only problem you really have to deal with are hand traps and maybe the loss of Gen X ally Birdman, but let's face it, the deck got 3 Convocation now, so pretty good in my opinion. And deck number 11 is Inzektors. Inzektors lost Hornet and Dragonfly to 1, so people just think it's dead, but the truth is, there are a lot of variants of this deck that work really well. You can use cards like Card Trooper and Raikou to get your Hornets and Ladybugs in the grave, and as long as you have a Centipede, you're usually fine. And it's a really underrated deck because it can pop just about anything that gets in its way repeatedly, and there's still an Inzektor OTK that uses the Inzektor Sword Excalibur card, so keep your eye on it. And the next deck is Geargia. Geargia is another old one, and people like to forget about it because, you know, Mermos kind of came out and blew it out of the water. No pun intended. But now that Mermos have sort of been watered down, no pun intended again, Geargia can maybe shine again. You still got cards like Machina Fortress, and you still got all of the Geargia cards. And the only real card that was lost was Shockmaster, but let's face it, did the deck really need it? And the last deck is Harpie Ladies. Harpy Ladies still haven't even gotten the Harpy Dancer card that's coming in Shadow Specters, but now it's still a great time to make the deck, because if you miss dragons, you can still spam cards like Dragosack and Big Eye really easily by just using cards like Harpy Channeler. And even though the deck is a bit linear, it's also very fast, very aggressive, and can overpower your opponent quite quickly. So if you like Harpy Ladies, there's something to play. And that concludes this list of 13 awesome decks that you should play since it's September 1st. If you've got other ideas, feel free to leave me a comment with what you would like to play. Hope you enjoy this video. Subscribe if you like things like this. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And I will talk to you guys later.